Hannah Blood and Katie Blackwell. Internal Systems Unit. Processor, the part of a computer which executes all of the operations. There are circuits on the motherboard which connects the CPU to other components. A bus moves instructions and data around the system. The speed of a bus is measured in megahertz.
Motherboard, the main printed circuit board which is found in general purpose microcomputers and other expandable systems. It allows all of the other components of the computer to communicate, CPU, RAM, etc.
BIOS stands for Basic Input-Output System, and it starts with the initial software that came with the computer to start up. Communicate with operating systems through the API or Application Program Interface.
Power supply is an electrical device which supplies electrical power for an electrical load. The power supply is an electrical device which supplies electrical power for an electrical load. Is a device which supplies electrical power for an electrical load. Its primary function is to convert its electrical current from a source into the correct voltage, frequency and current to the power load. They usually communicate through a wireless network.
Fan and heatsink. A fan and a heatsink help to keep the CPU cool. When the heatsink is too hot, the fan blows cold air at it. The heatsink has a thermal conductor that carries heat away from the CPU when it is too hot.
SATA is a cable used for connecting devices like optical drives and hard drives to the motherboard. These cables let the drives exchange data with the computer through the motherboard.
EIDE is an IDE drive interface that provides data transfer. These devices use a ribbon cable to connect each one end to the motherboard and one end to another drive.
The master and slave is a model of communication in which one device or process has an unidirectional control over one or more devices. In some systems, the master is picked from a group of eligible devices, and this means that the other devices act as a role of slaves. This control is always from the master to the slave.
Ports. A computer port is the connection point between external devices and the interface. When plugged in the operating system, auto detects it and also the driver disk. Once this is installed, the computer can communicate with the device. This is called enumeration.
RAM is the random access memory. It is a form of data storage on a computer or device. It stores the data and the machine code which is currently being used. It is attached directly to the motherboard and can use this to store programs which are currently running.
Graphics card. This is a circuit board which controls the output display on a monitor. It takes data from the CPU and turns it into pictures to be displayed. Unless there is a capability in the motherboard to change the information to graphics, then the graphics card does it.
Peripherals. Monitor. A monitor is an output device which displays the information of a computer into the pictorial form. It communicates with the power supply and is handled with the graphics card.
Coaxial cable is a copper cable surrounded by insulation to stop signal interference. Its widespread use as it is Ethernet connectivity medium. The signal a coaxial cable carries out is transferred simultaneously through the central wire as well as the separated metal jacketing, and this transfers to other components.
Optical cable is a data transmission medium. It contains tiny glass or plastic particles that carry light beams. They're immune to electrical interference and the signal holds up better over long distances. The light then refracts into the computer and is converted into readable signals.
Back-in storage. USB. A USB flash drive is a portable device that includes flash memory and a USB interface. Normal USB sticks have a transfer rate of 60 megabytes per second, and its storage capacities range from 8 megabytes to 64, depending on how much you are willing to pay for it.
SD card. An SD card is a portable storage device. They're usually 24mm by 32mm cards that hold. Transfer rates can vary between 4 megabytes per second and 80 megabytes per second, depending on the quality of the card, and the memory can also vary between 4 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes. SD cards can be read and written using SPI.
Portable hard drive. A portable hard drive is an external hard drive which plugs into the USB port of the computer or device. It is used to store data, files and information for the computer. Its transfer rate can range from 20 to 40 megabytes per second, depending on how big the storage capacity is, and that can range from anything from 5 to 8 terabytes.
A fixed hard drive is a non-portable mean of storing data, for example an embedded hard drive in a computer system. The average speed of an internal desktop hard drive is 7,200 revolutions per minute. The average storage size is 1 terabyte.
GIU operating system. It is a graphical interface, which means it contains menus, pointers, icons and graphics.
Command line interface. A command line interface allows the user to interact with the computer/device by typing in commands. The computer will display a prompt on the monitor, and the user is able to key in the commands and finishing off the commands by pressing enter or return.
Functions. Machine management on Windows. The OS uses programs called device drivers to manage connections with peripherals.
Machine management on Linux. The input from the keyboard or mouse are taken as commands and are sent to the monitor or printer as outputs. The procedure of accepting inputs and making them into outputs is known as peripheral management.
Security on Windows. Windows contains backup plans in case security breach occurs. More importantly, it encrypts data so it isn't easily hacked. It has easy access to the firewall to make sure it's on, and has free download of anti-malware. Linux. Users do not have access to system-wide files, therefore if something is corrupt, it is usually just the local files rather than more damage being done. To open a potentially damaging document, the Linux user has to download and authorize it to run executables, therefore limiting the damage.
File management on Windows. Windows uses Windows File Explorer to save and track files. It detects errors such as missing disks or incorrect file names and informs the user that errors have occurred. Linux. In Linux, all files and directories are located in a tree-like structure. The top of the directory is just called the file system, or just dash. All other directories can be accessed from here. Don't read this.
Features. Ability to customize. Windows. On Windows, you can use the control panel features to adjust the appearance and behaviour of the OS to suit different vision and motor abilities. These include adjusting colours, sizes, sound, volume, and the behaviour of the mouse and keyboard. Linux. Linux is an open source where it's free to customise any way you choose, meaning the customisations are endless.
Support for connectivity of portable media. Windows. Windows supports USB drives, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, CD/DVD, and external hard drives. Linux. To connect devices to Linux, you have to download an add-on to allow it to happen, since on its own it will not support external devices.
Reliability. Windows. Windows experiences many crashes, therefore it is not very reliable. It also needs to be restarted very often. Linux. Linux is very reliable and has known to be used for years without any necessary reboots of the OS. It rarely causes a system to crash.
Ease of use. Windows. Due to popularity, Windows is widely used, therefore people find it easier to use due to familiarity. Many people cannot understand any other OS since they have always used Windows. Linux. Linux requires users to know how to write code to alter things since it is open source.
Cost. Windows. Windows costs £100, as well as the price of downloads of other software needed on top of this. Linux. Linux is free to download and to use, and extra downloads and add-ons are also free.
User support. Windows. Windows has online help forums and pages on their website to help users. Books can also be purchased on each of the different versions of Windows. Linux. Linux has online forums and books are available to help the Linux users. Websites can also help with the program aspect, as well as using tutorials/walkthroughs.
Strength. Windows. Windows' main strength is its ease of use. Due to its popularity, it can be used easily and is set out well for lots of people to use. There is a wide range of programs which can be used with a Windows operating system, which makes it desirable. Gaming technology is compatible with Windows 2. Linux. Linux has a main strength of it being free to use and update rather than being very expensive. It is less susceptible to viruses since it has high security measures in place. It can be altered easily to suit the user which is used.
Weaknesses. Windows. A weakness of Windows is it has a high system requirements to run, meaning it may need a user to update their hardware. It also has very high prices, which isn't good. Users have to pay very large amounts for the software, considering an update is necessary every couple of years. Windows is very susceptible to viruses since it doesn't have many measures in place. Linux is hard to learn to use since you need to know how to program to make the most out of the different functions and options in that OS. Linux doesn't have a large software and hardware compatibility. You have to run programs alongside Linux to allow usage for many functions.
Software utilities. Virus protection. Virus protection software is used to safeguard a computer from malware, including viruses, computer worms, and Trojan horses. It can also remove or prevent spyware and adware, along with other forms of malicious programs.
This benefits the computer by allowing it to not be attacked by viruses, which could potentially end up in a user having to buy a new computer if not sorted out soon enough, which can be expensive. Firewall. A firewall is a network security device which monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic and decides which should be blocked when potentially dangerous. For example, blocking a software automatically downloading onto your computer from a dangerous online pop-up.
A benefit of a firewall helps block Trojan horses. These types of intruders latch onto your computer files, and then when you send out a file, they go along to do more damage at the destination, so this is stopped. Removal of cookies. When you visit a website, it saves data about what you have viewed in your cache, so it's easier to load in the future. However, this can build up and slow your computer down in the future. Clearing your cookies can result in saved password being lost since data is wiped.
The benefit of clearing cookies is the speed increase of the computer and its processes. It also maintains security because logins are not saved, especially on public access computers. It can also fit bugs in the browsers. Defragmentation. It reduces the amount of fragmentation. Fragmentation is the storing of files in several different areas of memory, which is then scattered through a hard disk, meaning that defragmentation will reduce the storing of files across the memory of the hard disk. It physically organises the files that are placed in the hard disk by reducing them and sometimes placing the smaller files into a single directory together, as they are often accessed in sequence.
A benefit of this runs a computer faster and more efficiently. It can also lengthen the hard drive lifetime since it is cleaner, therefore lasting longer. It can also reduce errors in the system.